So the question is from Saikash, what happens if I discover tomorrow, okay, now I understand consciousness, and understanding consciousness, I realize there's no way I can build the friendly AI I want to build without it being conscious. Now this question actually comes in two flavors. The difficult flavor is you build this friendly AI and you realize that there's no way for it to model other people at the level of resolution that you need without every imagination that it has of another person being conscious. And so the first obvious question is, well, why aren't my imaginations of other people conscious? And of course the obvious answer would be, they are. The models in your mind that you have of your friends are not your friends. They're not identical with your friends. They're not as complicated as the people you're trying to model. So the person that you have in your imagination, does not much resemble the person that you're imagining. It doesn't even much resemble the referent. So I think I think Michael Vassar is a complicated person, but my model of him is simple, and then the person who that model is not as complicated as my model says Michael Vassar is, etc., etc. But nonetheless, sort of every time I've modeled a person, and I write my stories, the characters that I create are real people. They may not hurt as intensely as the people do in my stories, but they nonetheless hurt when I make bad things happen to them. And as you scale up to superintelligence, the problem just gets worse and worse. The people get realer and realer. What do I do if this turns out to be the law? Come to think of it, I haven't actually considered much what I would do in that case. And I can probably justify that by pointing to the fact that if I actually knew that this was the case, I would know a great number of things I do not currently know. But mostly, I guess I would have to start working on sort of different friendly AI designs so that the AI could model other people less, and still get something good done. And as for the question of, well, the AI can go ahead and model other people, but it has to be conscious itself, and then it might experience empathically what it imagines conscious beings experiencing, the same way that I experience some degree of pain and shock, although not a correspondingly large amount of pain and shock when I imagine one of my characters watching their home planet being destroyed. So in this case, one is now faced with the question of creating a AI such that it can, in the future, become a good person. It's not sort of, to the extent that you regard it as having human rights, it hasn't been set onto a trajectory which would lock it out of being a good person. And this would entail a number of complicated issues, but it's not like you have to make a true good person right off the bat. You just have to avoid putting it into horrible pain or making it so that it doesn't want to be what we would think of as a humane person later on. But one might possibly need some other type of. You might have to give it goals beyond the sort of thing I talk about in coherent extrapolated volition, and at the same time, perhaps a sort of common sense understanding that it will later be a full citizen in society, but for now it can sort of help the rest of us save the world.